Hey friends, it's Rachel
and Shira. Welcome to our Zoom Out podcast.
We're two close friends who love having honest, vulnerable conversations about life, healing, and all the messy, beautiful parts of being human.
We definitely don't have all the answers, but we have a deep desire to see life from a wider lens.
We're here to ask questions, share our stories along the way, be real with each other and with you.
So if you've ever felt like there's a bigger picture you're not always seeing, you're not alone.
Let's zoom out
together. Hey everyone.
Hi guys.
Welcome back. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We're excited to be here.
But we're back and better than ever. And today's episode is the one where we analyze toxic relationships.
This one I think is a great one. Only because it is a very important topic. I think as people, we are in all types of relationships, whether we want to be in them or not. Yes. We got coworkers, we got our family, got friends, romantic relationships. And I think sometimes it's really hard to detect, is it a healing relationship or is it a toxic relationship?
Right. And I think what we're going to dive into today is just the signs of what makes a toxic relationship. How do you know you're in a toxic relationship? And then dive into transformative versus transactional relationships. Yes.
Obviously, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. We're not psychologists or anything. We're not therapists. This is just speaking from our own experience and what we notice has hurt us in the past when it comes to relationships or the type of relationships we just want to continue having. I think Shira is staying with me right now. We're in California recording together at my house. And
her new house,
new green couch. Shout out to Esty for choosing that. And I think it's really exciting because Shira and I, it's been a few months since we recorded. And we've just been catching up about life. And I think it's just
a lot has changed. There's so much to talk about, so get ready, guys.
Yeah, we have a lot to say, but I think specifically on this topic, we've just been able to reflect on the kinds of relationships that we want, and I think the biggest thing for us is alignment.
Yes.
Just alignment of the type of people we want to bring in our lives.
And I think the guide to get to finding relationships that align with you is to sort of, I guess, weed out or fix the toxic relationships, kind of identify the toxic relationships. Sometimes it could be you contributing the toxic
we
the toxicity,
the problem?
Right? It's me. Hi.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're the toxic ones. So
yeah.
I think that's also part of it. And something why we love this podcast is it's about zooming out, but you have to zoom in to zoom out. It's something that we say. And it's not just about, focusing on the people around us and questioning if they're toxic. We also want to really reflect inwards to see, am I attracting this? What part of me wants this?
Right. And I feel like I have a good example that shows both sides of that.
Please
and
share.
I have mentioned that I was in a toxic friendship. I could say one major toxic friendship. Obviously, no relationship is perfect. And there's always toxic elements to relationships, whether we want it or not. It's just... we're human, but what makes a full relationship toxic, there definitely are factors that you can sit and think about and reflect and realize that the whole relationship is just not it. And for me, I can actually pinpoint the day that I should have been like, whoa, there's something is not right here. And for me, it was just sitting down and realizing the foundation of a relationship should be respect and giving and taking, right? A relationship is, what do we say? Not transactional. Transformative. You're giving and you're receiving. The other person is giving and receiving.
There needs to be a balance.
Yeah, there needs to be an exchange of energy, good energy.
Right.
So when there's either too much giving, too much receiving, or vice versa on either end, that's the first step that you could say, okay, something is not right here.
It's unbalanced.
And then when another thing is respect. So if you voice your concerns and it's not being received or respected, that's another indication that the relationship is quite toxic. And yeah, I think for me, I started realizing the toxicity. Also, another important thing is to realize the role you play in the toxic relationship,
100%.
because toxic is also about like enablement, right? You can't experience a toxic relationship unless you are enabling it to happen. And that's not to say, I know there are like actual abusive relationships that are hard to get out of, and when you're in it, it's hard. And I'm not like trying to call anybody out or whatever. It's just like for you to sit with yourself. What role am I playing in this, and what role is the other person playing in this, and sort of how can I remove myself from this situation? And that might either be you working on yourself or needing to just remove yourself from the situation. And in my case, I realized the enablement that I was giving, if that makes sense.
It makes
grammatically. And
Shira, what does that look like? Like, what did that look like in your relationship with this friend?
So it was sort of like realizing that I wasn't like, this was too much. This was not right. Something was off. I wasn't being heard or respected when I voiced that. And I was allowing things and then contributing my own baggage, I guess.
Yeah.
I think you said something, we were talking about this, and you said like, when like, is this relationship like about garbage dumping and like the opportunity for them to dump their garbage and you dump your garbage, and then it becomes like two people just like, it's just not raising each other. It's just like
digging each other's holes a little.
Exactly. So so I realized that, and then I just had to remove myself. Like, the only way I can fix the situation is to remove myself.
In this case,
not always.
Yeah.
But I realized for myself in this case that it would have just been a cycle.
Well, also, I just want to add, like, a relationship takes two to tango. So Shira was saying, like, you know, you can have a toxic relationship and you're going to be part of that toxicity, right? Not in a way to guilt or shame yourself, more of...
Not at all.
You know,
and not even the other person. Like, it's not about placing blame.
Exactly.
It's just identifying why is this happening, what is happening, and what should I do about it.
Yeah, and also what part of me is attracting this, right? Because everything comes into our life at the frequency that we're on, like attracts like.
Right.
That's, you know, science and spirituality. So it's more just having that moment of reflection. And again, like what Shira said, not blaming anybody, not even blaming yourself, right? Like there's no judgment here. It's a safe space. Hopefully you're creating that safe space, that safe space between you and you. That's obviously a huge part of this whole process, just being life. But I think it's really about being able to reflect and ask, like, how did I play a role in this? I think when Shira, what she was saying is, like, sometimes there's no rule book in life, especially when it comes to relationships, but sometimes the best thing you can do is completely remove yourself from the situation. But it takes two to tango. If you're in a relationship that is a little toxic, but both of you recognize that and put the effort and want to make a change, that is completely possible.
Right. 100%.
But in your case, you were saying,
and sometimes the only way you can fully work on yourself, because for me, I guess the main reason why this relationship was toxic was because there was just like a reliance or a dependency, codependency. So the only way that we both could actually do the work and get out of that was to just like go our separate ways, kind of. And thank God now, like, I see this person, everything's fine,
amazing,
give her a hug, everything. But like, and we both had a conversation later about this, how we needed that, and it's just like a full circle moment that's like close with the bow, you know, everything's good. But sometimes you just need to remove yourself, work on yourself. And honestly, it really helped me with other relationships, even my pre-existing relationships, just to be like in a healthier mindset and work on myself, going back to self-love, self-everything. That we always talk about self, but I mean, it's basis important of everything. Basis, I hope that made sense.
That made a lot of sense, and we
I think I blacked out in the middle, but
well, no, we appreciate you sharing that. I think it's like sometimes can be a taboo topic, or sometimes I think it's just hidden. People don't realize. Something I was thinking about when you were talking about your friendship is I mean, we're going to have a later episode about intuition, which I think is just amazing in and of itself.
Yeah.
But one thing Shira and I were talking about is like sometimes your body knows before your brain does. I think for me, I've been in friendships that, you know, intuitively, maybe I definitely didn't want to listen to that intuition voice, but it was like.
That's part of, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm interrupting you
No,
right
you're-
away, but that's part of the toxicity that I was trying to say. Like, when you like ignore the signs
Yes.
and that enablement. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
like you contributing to it, kind of.
100%. And I think for a long time I've been in friendships where like I could just feel that my inner child did not feel safe. Like what Shira was saying, I think part of being in a toxic relationship is when you are talking about your feelings and that person takes it personal, that person takes it as an attack. And again, this is not to blame. Maybe that's something that you do, you know, when you have those conversations. But I've definitely been in those conversations where I'm trying to open up to someone and share feelings about the friendship, trying to work on it. And I kind of just leave feeling like unheard and unseen and invalidated. And I could just tell that my inner child just doesn't feel safe. And I think for a long time, out of convenience, you know, or circumstance, you want to tell yourself that that friendship can work and it could be okay. But they do this well and da-da-da. And I think something, you know, Shira mentioned it earlier, a big lesson I learned from my mom was when she said the sentence, there's a difference between transactional and transformative. And that to me was like this huge revelation, nothing I've ever thought about really before until she said it. So, you know, I'm obviously sharing that with Shira. But just the idea of there are, you know, like Shira mentioned, every relationship is an exchange of energy, whether we like it or not. That's just what it is. Every interaction we have with someone, whether we're friends with them or strangers. And I think that for a while I was a little bit on autopilot where I didn't really even realize how transactional some of my relationships were. It was like, okay, I give you this and you give this me back and we're going to count. You know, do you ever have that friend? This is something I really don't like, a pet peeve of mine. And Shira and I are not like this, and I love that. But there are like people out there where like, okay, you buy them a cup of coffee, and then they buy you a cup of coffee, but they only do it because you bought them, and it's like they don't do it out of, you know, love and appreciation, but they do it. Yeah. Okay, she bought me the $8 coffee, so I have to buy her the $8 coffee, and like, you know, charging you by.
Bought me a $95 steak yesterday.
You're so cute. But like, you know, just the idea, money is also just energy, but like, I don't know, it comes into that. That's something where I realize like the toxic can play into is where someone is like really limited when it comes to money. I'm not saying you have to buy anybody anything, but
it also the opposite. Like they could be too much, like buying you everything and like,
because it's about the energy underneath it of like, is it coming from a place of like neediness, like, oh, I'm gonna buy you this so you're my best friend and like you give me your energy? Because part of toxic relationships is this beautiful phrase that I love to say is like energy vampires. There are energy vampires.
I've actually never heard you say that.
Really? I think I was talking to someone about it recently, but it's kind of that idea.
Wasn't in the notes.
Yeah.
Going off
came to me.
Here. I'm joking.
But no, it's just the idea of like, okay, you know, we're talking about toxic relationships. The audience is listening, and I think the biggest question is like, well, how do you know if you're in a toxic relationship? I think that the biggest question you can ask is, after you spend time with this person, do you walk away feeling drained, or do you walk away feeling full of life and like on this high, full of energy and so excited? I know that Shira and I both have had those relationships or those moments where you either walk away feeling drained, and it literally feels like an energy vampire. Like they are sucking that energy out of you. And it could be in the middle of the day. I come back hanging out with this person. I just want to take a nap. You know, it's like you literally.
I remember when my parents came to visit me in New York at this time period, 7 years ago, whatever. And I remember my father telling me, like, Shira, like, what are you, like, what's happening? I see this person is draining you. Like, you're not you.
Yeah.
And when I think that's also another thing. When you find yourself getting lost to the relationship, when you don't feel like a sense of self anymore, and kind of like what you were saying, when like you voice your concerns and it's like either they get defensive or they don't hear it. If your feelings hurt someone else, then and they can't handle it, then that's where the issue is.
Something is going on there. Something is wrong there. I also think like exactly what you said, and going back to self-love, right? Relationships, I know we said this in the beginning, but the relationship you have with yourself is the master key, and every other relationship is a copy of that key. And you know, it's so important to know that our needs are so valuable. They are worth being heard. They're worth being seen. I also think, you know, there are people who in a romantic setting for a second, they like are in an abusive or toxic relationship, and then the next relationship they have are like really healthy, and they almost like don't know what to do with themselves because they've never experienced a healthy relationship. They're like, wait, like he hears what I have to say, or like, you know, he actually makes me feel good. And they think
it's like a red flag almost.
And they think it's because our nervous system just isn't used to it, you know? So I think for me, I had a friend for the longest time growing up from childhood that even as a kid, I've had this just like deep knowing of like, okay, something is just not wrong there, but something is just not right, let's say. Sometimes it doesn't have to be wrong to not be right.
Just not aligned. That goes back to the alignment.
Exactly, like just misalignment. So growing up, even as a kid, I just knew something was just a little off here. There would be moments where like I would feel like that, you know, energy vampireness, or just like I felt like she was very needy for my energy. And I remember as a kid, I mean, I didn't know how to handle things well. I just remember sometimes like running away, like just like running to the bathroom and like just not wanting to deal with that person in that moment. Not because she's not an amazing person and a great friend and whatever. I just like could tell that something was off even as a kid. And then, you know, growing up, it kind of just got to a point where the energy was transactional. It wasn't balanced. You know, I felt she was giving me more energy than I wanted to give her. And I also think like almost like a clue into what's toxic. If you feel like, where's your desire? Do you actually have a desire to talk to this person, to pour energy into this person? Because I felt growing up like I had less and less desire to pour into this friendship. And it got to a point where like she actually ended the friendship. And it's so funny because in the moment I was definitely sad about it, but more than me being sad that the friendship ended, I was actually proud of her for like standing up for herself and like sorry, I'm coughing. Like standing up for herself and doing what she felt she needed. But it was just like so clear to me that the energy exchange was so imbalanced. Sorry guys, my throat is dry.
Getting all choked up.
And I think that like I've had, you know, different friendships here and there that were similar, but just like a deep knowing. There was another friendship where like I ended the friendship, and again, nothing wrong with this person. I just felt we were on different energy waves. We were in different frequencies. We couldn't support each other the way we need. Also, I know we're talking about toxic relationships, but I'd also like to talk about healthy relationships. Like, you know, my mom said about transactional versus transformative. Something, you know, I want to shout out Esty. Like Esty, my best friend.
Who will be a guest on one of our episodes soon.
Yes, actually, in a few episodes she will be joining us, so I'm really excited about that. It's been like long time in the works. But Esty, like, thank God she has been a relationship in my life since we were children, where I always felt this was a transformative thing. It was like so clear in my, even as a kid, just my intuition that I barely formed at the time. It was so clear that this is like a transformative relationships. It's transformative to me when I, you know, if someone asks like, what does that mean? To me, truly, it means like I water you, you water me. Me and Shira were talking about this last night. We went to dinner for Shira's birthday, a little belated celebration, and we're just talking about the idea of like I really connect to people who the attitude is like, you will always have a seat at my table. I will always look out for you. You know, your pain is my pain and your joy is my joy. And I think that if I had to define a transformative relationship, is that, you know, I will sit with you in the mud, but I will also celebrate your wins with you as if they're my wins, you know, and I will always show up for you. And obviously in any relationship, sometimes you can't always show up. Sometimes you can't always be there, but it's that attitude towards the other person of like, you know, we are in this together.
Yeah.
There is that unity there. And I think that being able to water someone even when you feel dry, you know, is like, that's what makes a transformative relationship, is like that true unity between the people. And this is romantic, this is friendship, this is family. Our, you know, like Shira and I talk a lot about our family relationships and our childhood trauma and all these beautiful things that we've been able to like grow from. And something so big that I've, you know, been able to like put a lot of effort into is like my relationship with my parents and my brothers, and seeing those relationships flourish. But it really comes from this attitude, and at the end of the day, this root of I water you, you water me. Yes. I'm here for you no matter what. I care about this, you know, truly, like your sorrow is my sorrow. What can I do to help, you know, carry that burden? and celebrating the wins together. I think that is like everything. I also think that when you remove those toxic relationships in your life, whether it's, you know, the two of you build a transformative relationship together, or in Shira's case, you leave it, or in my case, they leave you, you know, like sometimes you don't even realize you need something until it happens.
Yes.
But I mean, when you see it like become healed, it is, you feel so much lighter as a person. I think like what Shira was saying, like her dad noticed her energy changed, you know, like everything is energy, and especially the people we keep. And what's that phrase where it's like, tell me who you are and I'll tell you who your friends are. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's basically,
it's like, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are.
Oh, yes. I just said it backwards. But no, it really is like the company you keep and like the environment that you're in.
And it's like the energy you attract.
And it's the energy you attract. So
yeah,
I think for this, it's more like being able to ask yourself, like, are you happy in the relationships that you currently have? What role are you playing in those relationships? Because we're not here to put blame on anybody, including ourselves. That's a very big piece of it. And also asking, like, is this something that I can change with this person, or is this something I need to create space with in order to heal? You know, we're not saying to let go of this friendship out of spite or anything. It's at the end of the day, it's about where you come from. And if it's out of love for yourself, trying to grow to your next level and be happier and be a better human, and so you take space, like Shira's case, like she like, what a beautiful thing. Not everybody could say that they've left a toxic relationship and you can still see this person and still hug them, and still,
it's honestly the best thing. I'm appreciative of that time in my life, because I learned so much. And even the way I show up now in relationships, I see, like, I have a friend, I recently got out of a relationship, like a romantic relationship, whatever.
She puts quotes on that.
And my friend is in a relationship, and I feel like I've been able to like be there for her and be so happy for her. Like you were saying, like, I water you, you water me, despite having just like gone through this. And like, obviously I want that for myself, but I'm so happy for her, like purely unselfishly. And it's just like cool to see how, like, I don't know, relationships can be transformative even if they were toxic, you know? Yeah. And like a lot of it is also the relationship with yourself. Like, I have a better relationship with myself, so I'm able to better be there for other people.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
It all comes back to you.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, as you all know, we have the quote and question of the day. If you're watching this, we have the cutest cards.
I know, it's
watch on YouTube.
Our logo.
Okay. So,
I want to say the quote.
Okay, you say the quote.
If that's okay. I just absolutely love
forgot.
this
I'm like,
quote.
What do we do first?
Yeah. I absolutely love the quote. I'm going to say it and then I'm going to explain it, but I honestly don't think it needs explanation. It's just the most beautiful quote. Okay. Quote is, the pain is in the resistance to reality, not the reality itself. And I'm going to say that again. The pain is in the resistance to reality, not the reality itself. This is a quote by Lindsay Doe. And just a little explanation, not that it needs it, but I think a lot of times we are, you know, we feel pain. That's okay. Pain is there. Pain is a signal into what needs to change. Pain sometimes is a blessing in and of itself. That's something we'll talk about later. But definitely. I think that sometimes we want something, or we want a certain relationship to work out, and it doesn't. And the pain that we feel is, we think it's the pain that we feel is the reality, but it's the resistance to just the reality. It's the resistance to the truth rather than what we want it to be.
And this is a little glimpse also into our dating episode.
Yes, which I'm very excited about.
Okay. Question. Have you had a relationship that has not worked out? What elements do you think contributed to it not working out? So this is just to leave you guys to sit and think about, what has the relationship felt like? What have you contributed? What has the other person contributed? And if it's not working out, what do you think is the reason for that?
And also, if you have so much love for yourself, what do you think would be the next best step?
Yes. That's always what should guide you guys. Self-love. Always going back to that.
Yes.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you next time.
Soon.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
We hope this conversation helped you feel a little bit more seen, a little less alone, and reminded you to take a step back and zoom out.
We're grateful to have you all along with us on this journey together.
Stay tuned for our next episode.
Bye, friends.